Good morning, Friday morning, March the 7th. Again, from my car. I had to take a half a day today for a dental appointment. I had to be at my dentist appointment at 7 o'clock this morning in Virginia. So I just came out and I have a few hours. I just took half a day before I have to be back at school. So because I had to take the time, I'm not just rushing back. I used it to run in and pick up a couple of things in Target that I needed to. And because I hate making a trip to Virginia when I've only get one thing done because it takes gas, and so I like to make the most of my time. So I have a moment here. I wanted to highlight something. It's that I am using with my seniors. I guess that's the beeping of some machine backing up here. Anyway, which I thought was an excellent example of a technique. We've been talking about embedded narrative, or a frame story is sometimes more common, that language, in terms of the structure of writing. And in the case of, we've been looking at that technique with Rhyme of the Ancient Mariner, Samuel Taylor's Coleridge, and we're just kind of wrapping that up. They test on Monday on that, and we are going to be shortly thereafter going into Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. So there are a few reasons I like to do Rhyme of the Ancient Mariner. It's a great preview, I think, of some of the themes and ideas, the essential questions that are being explored with Frankenstein. So it's a great way to kind of ease them in. I think it's a good thing to kind of cut teeth a little bit on the language, but because it is a ballad, it is verse, that helps. I keep them going, and we've had a lot of fun with it. I have to say that my inclusion class, seniors, my first bell, they have done a fantastic job. I'm just so proud of them, and I've just taken a lot of delight watching the engagement. I say we because I have an inclusion teacher, the lovely lady, Miss Mary Donnell, and so we've had a lot of fun. Yesterday we brought in Gustave Doré's, he was a 19th century French illustrator. Interesting little background on him, and that I shared with the students. He wanted to be an artist from the time that he was a small child, and his mom supported him, but his dad thought that he should choose something a little bit more practical in terms of what would pay the bills. His dad wanted him to be an engineer, but anyway, he stuck on it. He was determined to be an artist, and he illustrated with woodblock printings. He has 38 plates from things of Rhyme of the Ancient Mariner. So yesterday, I was able to get copies of those. Actually had a time, for any of you that did not realize this, I'm not super tech savvy, but I have another shout out to my dear friend Anita Rubino, who is an art teacher at the high school, who helped me and get these printouts because the copy machines in the building just were not doing it. So I ended up uploading them. She helped me actually do that. Anita uploaded them, but printed them out like as photos at Walmart. So that's just a tech tip. If you are trying to get like a reasonable enough quality of something, these wood block illustrations, of course, were inked, and so they were black and white, but they show incredible detail. Anyway, if you're trying to do something like that, Walmart has a great service. I was trying to get 4x6s so that I could print them out, the 38 prints, as almost like postcard size, and they're only 14 cents at Walmart. So I was able to get like a whole deck, if you will, all 38 prints for it was $5 something. It wasn't $6, and I actually ended up getting 4 decks of the 38 prints, because what we did is we went into the classroom, we talked to the students about how text and stories are illustrated, how they show up in different genres, and had them do some thinking, like if they had some unlimited funding and they were to commission an artist, what would they want a piece of artwork to look like? What medium? So that was our warm-up. And then I introduced them to Gustave Doré's prints, and they were in small groups, and they played essentially a game where each student, it was like kind of like cards, each student received, I think it was six prints, because there are 38 different prints. So we had them in groups of 4 to 6. The most any small group had was 6. So every student got 6 prints, and they go around. The referee role is rotates, and so each student has to throw down a card from his or her 6, and then they have to defend why that is the most significant print right there on the table out of the 6, or however many students in that small group at that point. And so they are essentially practicing their claim and evidence. We've been working a lot with argument. We started off the semester with the rhetorical triangle, and we have been talking about claims and evidence support for that, and even making counterclaims and coming back. And so they were really having fun with that yesterday. They got into all kinds of the details from these illustrations, and they had their copies of their text, The Rime of the Ancient Mariner, so they were trying to match up. This is when this occurs in this story, and this is why this is the most significant right now out of these others right here on the table out of the 5. So they had to really pull from their understanding of the story and the textual evidence. So they really engaged. It was a lot of fun. But anyway, and I'll post those for anybody. I don't remember. I am not the one that came up with this game. I found this game on my AP listserv. Unfortunately, the name is not on the handout, so I do want to give that, I guess, that disclaimer. I'm not the one that came up with it, but Mrs. Donnell and I have thought about ways that we could modify and add other things to it. So we'll add that. So anyway, so with this embedded narrative, because in the Rime of the Ancient Mariner, you've got the frame, you've got the first story, which is a wedding guest. 3 actually are headed to a wedding, and this ancient, graybeard loon stops one of these 3 wedding guests. It's like, I got to tell you my story, puts his skinny hand on him, and it just is compelling him to please listen to this story. And then, so that's the frame. And then the story itself, the mariner, begins to narrate the story of when he went out on a ship. And for those of you that don't know, this is the story, you probably might remember it when I say this. This is the story where the ancient mariner just one day shoots the albatross. An albatross that's done nothing wrong, has hung around, as it said, for 9 vespers around this boat. This boat was originally locked in ice because they had had a storm that had gotten them off track. And then the albatross shows up one day, and they are able to break free. And even though the albatross arrives with mist and fog, it could also be seen, it was initially seen as a good omen. And so, of course, the mariner's feeding it and playing with it. So the albatross keeps coming back. And then he just decides one day to shoot it with a crossbow. So, and then it's what ensues afterwards. And it's a great story. And then at the end of the story, it comes back to, the wedding guest, the mariner telling it, comes back to the frame. And so we have had a lot of fun with that. I'll just share this too, even had students read an interesting website I found where interesting facts about albatrosses, and very interesting things that, they can have wingspans that are 11 to 12 feet long. They can fly like incredible distances. Scientists have not been able to prove this conclusively yet, but they have strong evidence that suggests that albatrosses can even fly while sleeping. They can smell food up to 12 miles away. It's just amazing, these birds. And so anyway, we played a little game with that one. After they read that informational part, every student got a little clothespin on his or her shoulder, and got a strip of paper from their reading. I had them all read this informational text, and then they had to note 5 facts or factoids that were interesting. And so I took all of those, collected those, and turned them into answers and questions. And each student got a strip of paper with his or her question and answer. And so we had to get in a space out in the hallway that had perimeters. You can't step outside the space, and we call it bumper clothespin. So when the music's playing, you walk around. When the music stops, whoever's nearest, you tag them, and you have to give them the question, and they have to be able to answer it. And if they can't, you can take their clothespin, and they have to step out. And then if they ask you their strip of paper, so it might just be that you're exchanging clothespins if you both got the answer right. But the idea is to have the most clothespins, and they like that. It's a fun game to get them up moving. They enjoyed it. But anyway, back to the CPB I want to highlight today. This is one, again, I went to Recycled Reader, and I talked about that in an earlier vlog. It's a wonderful bookstore over in Elizabeth City. And I found this one. It is called Billy's Booger, a memoir, sorta. It's by William Joyce and his younger self. And I think William Joyce and his younger self. I love that. I think William Joyce also did not only the writing, but also did the illustrating. So let me show you this book. Yeah, it's a funny book. I mean, I saw it and I was like, what in the world is this about? And so it's got some memoir. It's kind of an interesting little mix of different genres, including memoir, embedded narrative, even parts where it's where it looks like he has written it in his handwriting. So, I always love to talk about the end pages. So the end pages are this child, when he was a little boy, he used to write all the time. He would write so much, and here's the last end pages, right? He used to write and draw so much when he was in elementary school, and I think this is, try to remember what grade. 4th grade. Okay. From the 4th grade, actually. Let me show you the title page. Isn't that fantastic? Billy's Booger, a memoir, which is a true story, which this book is, written and drawn by William Joyce and his younger self from the 4th grade, actually. So I don't know if he actually had, a collection of some of his writings and drawings, or how that worked out. I have not had a chance to research this author, but it starts off, and what the problem or what the issue was is that Billy was always getting in trouble because he was always drawing on anything and everything, like when he was supposed to be doing, for example, his math or whatever the subject, whatever the activity was at school, he was always drawing, he was always annotating with his drawings. And so this story is about, how that's being viewed in school, and that he's not being celebrated until there's a contest. His principal sounds like a fantastic principal. You'll love this principal's name, Principal Blisterbaum. Principal Blisterbaum. But anyway, the school holds a story contest, a writing contest, and Principal Blisterbaum is going to be the judge. And so Billy finally sees an opportunity to make use of this passion of his, this obsession of his, this hobby, something that he just loves to do all the time, and something that up to now has gotten him more in trouble than for sure any kind of glory. So he tells the story, he writes his story, and the name of his book, okay, his little memoir, which is really interesting, is called Billy's Booger, the memoir of a little green-nosed buddy. So what happens in this CPB is you have the book the story that Billy writes as a fourth grader for this contest. And it is actually the book, if you can see this, is within the CPB. And it's what happened. So it's embedded narrative is what it is. And then, of course, there's the humor of a fourth grader, which is the perspective, the point of view. It's actually the booger in Billy's nose that's telling a story, which, you want to talk about different perspectives. That is hilarious. Anyway, that is such a fantastic one. And I just love this idea of embedded narrative that's even showing up in the children's picture book. And it reinforces that frame story, that embedded narrative that we see in Rime of the Ancient Mariner. Of course, we'll see that with Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. And I just think it's interesting. There's so many cool things going on with this book. There's the different point of view. There's the writings that he's collected and been able to use. In fact, if you look here at his author's bio, it's got a picture of William Joyce. Before, this is a picture of him in his childhood that he was, I guess in fourth grade. And that's when he began writing books, in the fourth grade. Says he's done a bunch of books since, but this is the true story of his making that very first book. And that book is included in this book. Mr. Joyce has won a lot of awards, including an Academy Award for his short film, The Fantastic Flying Books of Mr. Morris Lusmore. And he is the guy behind that. And I had highlighted that particular short. It's an animated short. I use that, and that is a fabulous one. If you'll look on the vlogs, you will see that that's listed. Maybe it was the second or third vlog, but I list it where you could find that. And then under the illustrator, it says Billy Joyce. And then you see the picture of him, the after, was a reality-challenged fourth grader who began William Joyce's career. He did not win many awards, though he was deemed most challenging student by his principal. This is his book debut. So it's kind of interesting. We used the before and the after picture. Billy was what he was known as in fourth grade, and Billy is the one that did these drawings, these childhood drawings. So kudos to him and his parents who kept these drawings. And then William Joyce, of course, is the adult. So I love that. I think there's a lot in this book to be used, and I was tickled. I picked this up for $6. It's a hardback. It still has the cover on it and everything in great condition. And look, you see the little green booger, the personification going on with that. I just think this is such a fun way to reinforce the literary narrative technique of embedded narrative or frame story. You can talk about memoir, you can talk about point of view, you can talk about personification, obviously. There's just a lot going on here. And even the idea that if you by chance have some of your drawings and you have some of your writings as a child, wow, that somebody is held on to those. I love that. I'm also thinking I want to go back and do a little bit more research, because Mac Barnett, and I've mentioned him before, and did a vlog on one of his books, Sam and Dave Dig a Hole. He started working with CPBs when he was in high school. I read that on the Library of Congress page. Remember, he was just announced in January as the new national ambassador for the literature for youth. And so I want to find out a little bit more about that, how that journey started. Like, you don't typically think of high school students, quote, writing children's picture books just on their own. So I want to know what the exigency or the details are about that, how that started with him. So because that's something I might be able to pull into and even overlap with Billy's Booger. This can also be great for memoir writing as well. Another kind of thing to get them to think about with memoirs, nonfiction, and it's just crossing genres all over the place, and I love it. So that's the one that I wanted to talk about. That's going to be upcoming. Really excited about that. And again, anytime I can show kids, my seniors, not just for exposure to look what you could do of all the possibilities with children's picture books, but also that it ties in with what we are reading in terms of text for us and what we are studying and what we are writing. I love doing that. I'm taking one group over to Knott's Island Elementary this coming Tuesday, March the 11th. We're going to be working with the first graders over there. And then the following week, the Wednesday, March 19th, I'm taking 3 classes and some students from another teacher. I've got one teacher that's taken her second bell, so my 2 classes and Heather Boyle's second bell of seniors. And then we are going to be pulling from some seniors that wanted to do the project. We needed to have enough to have every first grader covered. And so another teacher that teaches seniors is lending some of her students to us and letting them do this project in place of a couple of projects that they would be doing if they were not doing this in her regular class. So really excited. That's a big group, the 19th, and we will have worked with 5 of the 6 first grade classes at Shawbar Elementary. So, doing some important work there, I think. And I'm excited to see how this semester evolves. Things are just speeding along. So, all right, have a great weekend. Finally, the sunshine is coming out. It was cold driving up here this morning. It was cold in the dental chair, but the sun is really starting to shine and show itself. So I am grateful for the warmth, and I hope you have a fantastic weekend. Bye.